What's going on, you guys, and welcome to the channel. Hope everybody's having an awesome day. Today we're going to be taking a look at a Sega DreamCast. This is one of my all-time favorite consoles. This brings back so many good memories. This is a customer drop-off. He said that he had taken it apart to try and clean it, got distracted, put it back together, tried playing it sometime later, and apparently it wouldn't read discs. So we're going to get down to the bottom of this, figure out what's going on with it. I do have a couple laser replacements if needed, but we're just going to have to get into this, see exactly what it needs, and then go from there. Stay with me, you guys. So one thing I forgot to mention in the intro was his form of payment. There is a good bit on the line here. If I can get this thing up and running, he said that he has a box of retro games and quite a few consoles. He says he has NES, SNES, Atari. He said that he has 2 Atari systems that he wants to donate to me. He said that he also has a Sega Genesis, which is non-working, and then a SNES that is also non-working. I think that those would be great for future videos, so I'm hoping and praying that we can get this thing up and running, because that would just be one hell of a score, you guys. So fingers crossed that we can get this going. The stakes are kind of high. Alright, you guys, so this is our console in question. Again, he says that it does not read discs. He also wants me to give it a nice good clean if I can get it working, which I have a feeling we can. I can almost always get these things fixed unless it's like some detrimental issue. These things actually have a tendency to last pretty darn long. It's actually a really solid built console. I love these things. This just brings back so many nostalgic memories. But I am noting that it looks like there is some liquid damage up front. Looks like maybe some coffee or soda got spilled up there. Not sure what that is, but we'll definitely get that cleaned off. Disc tray opens nice and easy. Spindle spins. Pretty dirty and dusty on the inside, but not too bad. So we'll go ahead and get set up and start getting this thing ready to be tested and then taken apart. Alright, you guys, so she is hooked up and ready to go. Before I power it on, I want to show you guys one thing. He did bring me this aftermarket third-party controller, but listen to this. So we're gonna have to get into this thing and see what the heck is going on with that as well. You never know, though. Alright, on to testing, you guys. Let's go ahead and turn this thing on. Alright, we are getting no power. Okay, I have to hold the power button down in order for this thing to actually turn on. If I let off, then it shuts off. Okay, so I had to push it down pretty hard. I did get it to stay. So it does turn on. So we're going to have to address this as well. Alright, so that's always a good sign. So we'll go ahead and get my test disc here. Coaster works. Oh yeah, that power button is not happy. Go ahead and get a disc in there. Nice and gentle. See if we give it a nice hard press. Yep, it now stays on. Another big question is, does this thing actually work? 11/27/1998. Man, I'm old. Alright, it is saying to insert the game disc. Obviously we have one in here, so... And it is not even spinning. And I'm getting no action. None at all. Oh, no, it's spinning. There it goes. we're just going to give it a second here and see what happens. Alright, same thing. Disk stopped spinning. So, symptoms align with what customer was stating. Aside from the power button thing, I'm going to have to send him a message about that and see what he has to say. But we're going to go ahead and get my tools, and we are going to get this thing unhooked and get into it. Alright, so we have everything unhooked. I am staged. I have everything that I should need. Getting one of these apart is pretty straightforward. There should only be 4 screws on the bottom, and we're going to go ahead and get those out. So you just got to flip her on her back. We got 1, 2, 3, and there's going to be a 4th screw underneath this little cartridge right here. Whoops. This thing's pretty beat up as well. I just beat it up a little bit more. Set that off to the side. And then we'll just go ahead and start with the removal here. Alright, so pretty straightforward. So this top piece should just pop right off now. And just like that, there we go. There's definitely some nasty gunk going on over here. Not a lot of dust. There's a little bit of dust on the vent over here, but this thing is relatively clean. It's not really faded, or definitely has some scratches on it, but yeah, for a 20-plus-year-old console, this thing is in excellent shape. So this is our disk drive. This is what we're going to be taking a look at and see what's going on with this thing. Sometimes you can turn the pot or the potentiometer up and increase the power output, and that will help it read disks. That's usually only a temporary fix. However, I generally just like to replace these outright, but we'll go ahead, inspect it, and see what we're looking at here. Definitely seeing some dust bunnies up in here. I can see where he obviously was messing around in here, because this is not underneath its routing path down here, these wires. Oh, you can't be serious. Really? Okay. So this is very reminiscent of the PS4 that I just did. You guys see the problem here? Can anybody else see this? Does anybody know what's missing right there? Unbelievable. He didn't plug the ribbon cable back in. Wow. Okay. I was not expecting it to be that easy. Okay, that doesn't generally happen. We're going to go ahead and plug that cable back in and then put it back together and test it. What the heck? Alright, we'll go ahead and get this thing plugged back in real quick, and we can go ahead and just test it like this and see if it will now read the disc. By all rights, it definitely should. Alright, she is plugged in. Anytime you guys are ever doing anything like this, if you ever do, be extremely careful. The power supply has enough voltage in there, it can unalive you. So be very careful. Alright, go ahead and get our disc. Go ahead and turn it on. And then there's a little switch right here that you can just hold down. Oh yeah, I hear that. It is doing a disc check. And it is spinning up. I am noting that the laser is very, very loud. Alright. So, that is a working console. Fantastic. Okay. So, we have this thing ready to be torn down. Just got to go ahead and remove this expansion piece right here. Oh yeah, much better. Alright, so we are going to start with the power supply. So I'm just going to go ahead and push in that power button, drain as much power out of there as possible. First thing that we're going to have to do is get this clip here disconnected. And then we have 1 screw, 2 screw. Seems simple enough. Alright, so that is the screws out. Let's see if we can just go ahead and gently lift this on out of here. There are some clips right here holding it in, so you gotta be very careful. Alright. Very reminiscent of the PS1 and PS2. It looks like a PS1 power supply, and it connects like a PS2 power supply. So very reminiscent. Go ahead and set this off to the side. Get this little shield out of here. Next up, we're going to get this disc reader out of here. Not forget to hook it up. Alright, seems easy enough. And then we're just going to start pulling screws out. They are all over the place. There's probably 15 or 20 of the screws that you got to pull out of here in order to get this thing apart. So, sit back and relax, you guys. Alright, so that's that whole unit out. So now, in order to get this disk drive completely unplugged from this little daughter board right here, we have to go ahead and remove 1, 2, 3 screws. There is a lot of different screw sizes when it comes to this console, so you want to make sure and keep them all separated. Now, on this bottom left corner right here, there is one hidden screw. And I always forget this one. And it is in there. Oh my goodness. So it does look like there is one more hidden screw. It's probably been 5 or 6 years since I've actually taken one of these apart, so please forgive my incompetence here. Alright, go ahead and set that off to the side. Beautiful. Alright, so here's our connectors right here. Go ahead, just use my tweezers and gently disconnect this. Remember, when you're working on older consoles like this, the last thing you want to do is pull on the wires to get these connectors out. It's never a good idea. So we'll go ahead and get this board off to the side. It's actually pretty darn clean. Alright, so I am curious as to know what is causing all that noise, and I'm thinking that it has just simply ran out of grease along these rails that it runs on. It is pretty loud. Not sure if we can remedy that, but we will try. Alright, so next up, all I really need to do is just get these controller ports out, get this shield off, and we will be good to go ahead and start cleaning this thing. So there is one little fan connector over here. Go ahead and get that out, and then we should have this guy ready to come out. Okay, so this is moving around a lot. So I'm going to remove this all as one unit, the fan and the controller ports. So I don't want to risk tearing that off the board. I don't feel like doing any soldering today. Alright, so we got this thing completely taken apart. The main motherboard here looks pretty darn good. Relatively nice and clean. It wasn't so bad. Alright, go ahead and set that off to the side. So we're just going to take this, give it a good little dusting with my trusty dusty soft bristle brush here. Alright, then to get rid of the gunk that's right here, just use some isopropyl alcohol in my little toothbrush. Alright, so the inside of this is relatively clean now. Before I go ahead and put this thing back together, I will be going ahead and giving this outer shell a nice good clean. So go ahead and move on to some other components here and set this off to the side. Alright, then there's a ton more in this inner ring right here. Go ahead and try and get as much of this out as possible. Let's see how nasty that is. Sorry about the noise. It's very annoying. Alright, so that looks like it's going to be ready for a nice good wipe down when I do get to the wiping down. Actually, we'll go ahead and get this little part right here as well. Oh yeah, that comes out beautifully. Perfect. All right, I love that. All right, on to the next component. All right, so this motherboard is perfect. All right, next up is this little daughter board. Go ahead and get this dusted off as well. Got our little switchy right here. Gotta be very careful. Be a bad time if we broke that. Alright, then we got our power supply. You always want to be careful with these. I cannot stress that enough. Always be careful with these. Alright, pretty satisfied with that. No more dust bunnies. Move on to our controller port. Ooh, gotta be careful. Probably the dirtiest part about this thing is this fan. So we'll go ahead and get that nice and clean. Alright, there we go. It's relatively nice and clean. Go ahead and set this off to the side. And then we have our disk drive. So you always want to be careful with these. Don't ever touch the laser. However, I will be using some isopropyl alcohol to just barely clean it a little bit. I'm going to get some grease on these rails here as well, and that's going to hopefully soften up that sound that it's making. Alright, so we got some IPA on my Q-tip here, and I'm just going to barely, ever so slightly, just give her a little rub down. And that's all that should need. Not really any dust or anything in here, so we'll go ahead and set this off to the side. And we will get ready for reassembly here. Alright, so when I come back, this thing will be in one piece, and then we will go ahead and test it, and then we will do the controller. Alright you guys, so we've got her all back together. And she's still pretty dirty, so we're going to go ahead and give this thing a nice wipe down, hook it up, test it, and get this thing back to the owner. Looks like there are some scratches here. They're not going to obviously come out, but they're not going to come too clean either, unfortunately. Alright, I think I'm happy with that. What do you guys think? She look nice and cute and sexy. I think she's hot as hell. Alright, let's go ahead and get a game in here, get this thing hooked up. Make sure it still works. Alright, so we got her all hooked up. She is ready to go. Please excuse the screaming in the background. Kids are just loud like that. The disk drive is definitely a lot quieter with the grease in there. It's still kind of noisy, but not as bad. Uh-oh. We are running into a problem. Oh man, talk about a cliffhanger here. So this controller has completely stopped working. And I do not have another one. Now I did test it off camera and it was definitely acting kind of funky. This thing has definitely ceased operation. Well, that's very unfortunate. Damn it. Well, okay then. I guess we are going to have to tear into this thing and see what the heck is going on, huh? Well, that's unfortunate, you guys. Off camera, I did a bunch of testing. I tried it on my personal Dreamcast, and I got absolutely nothing. The Dreamcast itself is fixed for the customer, but that controller is going to be a whole separate issue. So I'm going to hold on to it for a while, see if I can't figure out what's going on with it. I did take it apart and I tested it with my meter, and we are getting voltage from the controller port itself, but none is actually making it to the board. It's not making it past a certain point. So there's some kind of issue there. Unfortunately, I don't have the resources to fix something like that. And it's one of those things where I'm going to have to explore and learn something new and figure out exactly what it is that's causing that. And it will definitely help in future repairs. So until next time, you guys, thank you for sticking with me. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe. We are almost 50 subscribers. I appreciate you guys. Have a good frickin' night.